The boys are back and they're ready to go. Hearing too much trash on the radio.
Oh, hey, how you all going? It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy here with crank.com and with that metalstation.com. And today I'm getting to have a chat with guitarist, vocalist Adam Joad of Scattered Hamlet, who are due to release, I believe, their third full-length album, Stereo Overthrow, which will be the 12th of November. Adam, cheers for joining me, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having us. Or me. We're the other guys. I don't know where they are.
No, it's good to get to chat with you, man. I fucking love your sound, man. It goes a little all over the place. There's so many different influences in it, from country to heavy metal, man. How would you describe your music to someone who hasn't heard you guys before?
You know, I'm kind of like, I listen to so many different things. Like, I think everything I've listened to somehow ends up somewhere, you know, like even if it's not obvious, you know, but like, I mean, the gist of it, like when people ask me if they're like, I'm like, look, it's like if you took Southern rock, like Skinner and Molly Hatchet and mixed it with Motorhead, like that, that's what I was like, that's basically what it is, you know, like, you know, we came from punk bands, you know, and we obviously, you know, have a Southern rock background. So it's those two things together, you know, with, you know, like you said, all the other shit that goes across, you know.
Yeah, it goes with it, man. It creates this fucking totally unique sound. I was lucky enough to come across you guys. I think with the Stereo Overthrow, Curtis hit me up, said, check this out. And I went and checked out your other couple of albums and the EP as well. So it's really cool to get to chat to you, man. But I want to know, how did this project originally start? Tell me back, I think it was 2010 roughly you guys started. How did this get together, man?
Well, we all, well, most of us at that point, you know, I'd been in like East Coast punk bands, and to forward my music career, I ended up in Los Angeles, you know. So Rich and I both did, our drummer Tom Jake, and not together, you know, we just all ended up in LA. And you know, I was in a lot of different like LA style rock bands, you know, like more hard, you know, like kind of getting away from the punk thing, more into the rock stuff. And you know, basically everything fell apart. And I had a buddy, his name's Ari, and he's a great producer. And he said, hey man, when you're done and you're ready to go on to the next thing, he's like, I've spent enough time around you to know what kind of makes you unique. And I was just like, yeah. And he's like, no, he's like, there's stuff that you think's normal about you that's not, you know, like, and so pretty much he was like, so bring bring your riffs and your guitar and come see me in Iowa. So I flew to Iowa, and we made a 3-song demo of that would become what, and he's like, then he sent me back to LA, and he's like, yeah, now make a band out of that. and that's what we did. You know, we made a band, we played on the Sunset Strip. When it was time to start touring and it got real, you know, all those members dropped off. Basically, they were just like, you know, they get, you know, now it's changing your life. You know, you got to go out on the road, and so then I had to get a new group of people in, and that group of people, you know, they came in, like Rich came in. At the time there was Eric, who's in a band called Void Vader. He was in White Wizard, Gypsy Hawk, a lot of bands. He came in early on, and then they got signed to Metal Blade, and he went and did that. So we've had like this rotating cast. Then we finally started touring, and then we toured for a while. Then, you know, some of the members didn't like that, and you know, so we finally eventually got the right group of people, and we, you know, toured enough that we could not live in Los Angeles anymore, because, you know, this music isn't from there, you know, like, I mean, I really enjoyed my time in Los Angeles, but, you know, when you're recording an album in the Hollywood Hills, like, that's about swamps and, you know, where I'm from, like I had to stay in the studio to keep in the right mindset, because you go outside and it's gorgeous. Like, it's like, whoa, I'm not very angry out here, you know. Like, it's like I'm overlooking Hollywood, there's palm trees, you know, and I was like, no, I got to go back inside, you know, and put tobacco in my mouth and, you know, drink whiskey and stay like in this little like darkness. And yeah, so we ended up moving, you know, back, and you know, all of us were from different places. So, you know, we tour out of Nashville now, you know, and even though we've been around a while, we weren't going at it full time in the early days. We probably didn't become like a full on touring operation until, probably 4 or 5 years after we started, so, we've been around, but at the same time, it's deceptive, when you see how long we've been around. It's like, well, the idea was around.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of hard work and dedication. Hence, the couple of lineup changes to begin with and trying to find that steady lineup, because people don't realize how much hard work goes into what you guys do and what other people do in the music industry behind the scenes. It's not like you just get up on stage, you play your song, and away you go. And to begin with, it's not making much money. You got to work your fucking ass off.
You gotta, and a lot of the people, even the people that want to be a musician, don't really realize what it is in today's world. Like we had people like that'll hit us up, and they're like, yeah, I want to go out and play guitar on stage with you, and I'm like, and they're modeling it after Guns N' Roses. I was like, yeah, brother, that's not the reality right now. Like nobody's, if you're drunk and passed out, there's no manager or record label telling you to get up and get on stage. They're firing you and getting somebody else who will do it now, and it's, yeah. So even people that think that they want it, like it turned out like they really didn't. They didn't like it in this day and age, so yeah, it's a lot. And then you got to figure out, how to pay bills and that kind of stuff, because when you start, it doesn't make any money.
No one makes money. I tried explaining that once to a reviewer who tried to come across. Oh yeah, I'll write reviews. How much you getting paid? How much am I getting paid? I'm like, the musicians aren't getting fucking paid, man. What makes you think you're getting paid? It takes a lot of work before you get to that point where it's a self-sufficient point.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's funny. Like I laugh about, like, somebody accused one of our videos of I think it was the video for White Trash, and we were drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon, right, in the video, and they're like, yeah, nice product placement. How much did you get paid for that? I'm like, product placement? I was like, the way we got extras to come to the video, because we had no budget, was to give them free beers. We literally went to the place, and we're like, what is the cheapest beer that you guys have? And they're like, Pabst Blue Ribbon. We're like, that's what we're buying. So we threw down the $100 that we had as our freaking that was the budget for the alcohol and the extras, and we basically came back with that, and we're like, here's the free beer, be in the video. And that's what we did. Yeah, so like, I was like, product placement, what the
there's your fucking product placement.
Yeah, it's like that shit was the cheapest, man.
Yeah, man, it's like fucking A. And the stereo, now we're talking film clips, dude. I want to ask about that stereo Overthrow film clip. That was the first single for this album as well. That was a cool film clip, and I managed to share that the day it dropped as well.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that was fun. There's a I live nearly in West Virginia, which is it's a state known for hillbillies, and like it's kind of a backwards place, and it's awesome in all the right ways. But there's a film company that I'd been helping out with, when I was back at home, and they do like horror, like B horror movies and like campy stuff, and I had been helping them score films and, doing things. And I was like, you know what? I want you guys to do the videos for these. And they were like, yeah, they're like, we never really did music videos before. I was like, yeah, we'll figure it out. So this Burning Ball Productions, from down there got together, and they did some, it was really cool. It was like, I got to work with them on some of their major films, like doing, scoring and doing music for it. Cool. And then they in turn, helped me out with, doing the videos. And we had a lot of fun with them. I like the way they came out. It's just us being, who we are, dumbasses,
Yeah. And then at the start, kind of the hip hop look with one with the clown, I thought was real funny. And then the black metal, I was like, Experiment 2, it's like black scattered bodies or something like that. I think it was.
Yeah. It was so hot, man. It was like the day that I don't know how those they obviously live in like Norway or like some Nordic country, because when we put that makeup on, like in the field and in June and like Appalachia, it was hot as hell. My makeup's like poured down. I was like, I don't know how they do this.
It's like, quick, get the shot before the makeup dripping
man,
liquid off of my face.
Yeah, it was funny. Like, my wife and another fella that the place we recorded at, his we recorded his wife's family's place, and he was there. So those two were the ones who painted like our makeup on our face, you know. So we're basically just looking at black metal pictures, you know, like that's what we need.
It came out well, man. Were they the same people who made the other film clip for that, All Talk?
Yeah, they did All Talk as well. We actually we filmed those on the same day. Like we filmed those over 2 days. Yeah. So like, there's probably some obvious tells for that, you know, like, so, but yeah, it was the same group of people. And, yeah, it was pretty crazy, you know, like it's in a little farm out here in the middle of nowhere, you know, and yeah, it was good. It was a long 2 days, but you know, we got it done. Video making is, I don't like that. I mean, I like how they come out, but like that side of it is just not for me, you know. I've done stuff like when I was in Los Angeles to make money, you know, I did stuff on film and TV and things like that. And that it's tedious. It takes forever. Like
pain in the ass.
Yeah, this is not my thing. Like, it's like, no, I walk out on stage and play a song, you know, I don't do like 20 takes.
Exactly. Tell us about making this album. What was it like for you guys? Did you encounter any difficulties through what we were going through in the world? Tell us a little bit about making this album, Stereo Overthrow.
Yeah, we actually started making it before COVID happened. It was a really long process because it was the first thing we did after our drummer Jake had his accident, and so we were kind of you know, we all scattered about, you know, no pun intended, and and you know, it was kind of like, well, we need a full length album, and nobody was really you know, in that mode yet to start recording. So I was like, well, you know, I sat down and came up with all the demos for the album. And, you know, then when I started sending them to the guys, that kind of got them, you know, energized, so that we started putting it together, and we went out to, I don't know why we went there, but we went to Rhode Island in the middle of the winter, and that's, it's like, it snowed on us. So we couldn't like drive anywhere. So that's where we went to do the pre-production. So we're like in Rhode Island and New York City. And we did the pre-production, and, you know, we decided our producer, the fellow producer, Jay, is in Los Angeles. And like I was saying, I told Jay, I called him on the phone. I was like, I'm not recording this album in Los Angeles. It can't be recorded there. I was like, here's your choices. It's got to be recorded in Louisiana, in Nashville, or in Muscle Shoals in Alabama. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, well, let's do it in Nashville. He's like, I'll just come there. And I was like, all right, cool. So we went to Nashville, and against everything everybody told us, we recorded it live with all of us playing together in a room, you know, because nobody does that now. But we were like, yeah, we want to play it as a band. Like, our favorite records in the 70s and 80s were made, you know, and yeah, so we went to Nashville. We recorded all the instruments. And I ended up, I did do the vocals here in this studio, you know, that was, you know, I do a lot of that myself, and, you know, and now that I know what to do, I didn't at first, you know, but now that I know what to do, you know, I do, yeah, and that's how, and, you know, that's kind of how we got it recorded. So we ended up in Nashville.
That would have been cool recording down in Nashville as well. Even me being an Aussie, I've heard about the Nashville and the music scene down there as well.
It was cool, and in the last night, it like really ended up being a cool night because my one buddy called me up and was like, hey, I'm on tour in Nashville. He's like, and my buddy's from South America, and he's like, I'm on tour in Nashville. I want you guys to come out to my show. And I'm like, dude, I was like, we're gonna be at the studio till like midnight. He goes, no, I need you to come out to the show. I want you to meet. He's like, I want you to meet some people. And I'm like, who are we gonna meet, right? And like, and he's like, and I was like, well, who are you playing with? And he's like, well, I'm playing with Sean Lennon and Les Claypool in the Claypool Delirium. I'm like, we'll be there. I said, next time, I was like, lead with that next time, you know? So so the last day of recording, we had to finish up real early so we could go and catch him. He was playing keyboards for the Claypool Lennon Delirium. Oh, wow. And, which is awesome. You know, like those guys are just incredible. So it was really neat to, you know, after we were done recording this album, to go, you know, hang out with those guys backstage, and, you know, like that they're legends, you know, like, and it was really cool.
I was just watching a bit of Les Claypool.
Yeah,
like, funny you said that. Like, just yesterday, I was watching
Yeah,
rock out to something. I was like, dude, I've seen it 100 times, but every time I watch him, I'm like, he's fucking insane. That guy.
Yeah. It was crazy. It was funny. He was like, yeah, these guys want to meet some like real hillbillies. He was telling me, and I'm like, all right, we'll come. I was like, sure, twist my arm. I'm like, this is amazing. I'm like, it was a trip. Like you're talking to. Sean Lennon was telling us something and you're like, and he's talking about his dad and you're like, oh yeah, his dad is John Lennon from the fucking Beatles. Like this is not a normal conversation, like
that would have been a really cool show to be a part of and probably something you guys, have you been able to play live yet? Or I did see he's had some shows, I think coming up in December, but had you played?
Yeah, some December. We went out with a band called Anti-Mortem in July. So we probably did like 3 weeks in July. We went out, we supported them. And Anti-Mortem, those guys are all in the band Texas Hippie Coalition too.
Yeah.
So it's the same band and they have a different.
I got a mate who loves them. Every time I go out there, he's got some Texas Hippie Coalition cranking.
Yeah. It's basically Nevada and his brother Rado. They play drums and bass in Texas Hippie, or not drums, guitar and bass in Texas Hippie Coalition. And their band Anti-Mortem, they got signed when they were really young, and so they've been working with Tex Hippie, and then when they go out by themselves, so he called me up, was like, yeah, we need to go on tour. I was like, yeah, we need to do that. So we went, we did like Texas, we did one major festival. We're in Minnesota at Rockfest, and that was cool. Rob Zombie headlined that, and like Steel Panther. It was a good show. It was cool. So we did get out and play a little bit, and now we're like, okay, let's get the album out. Let's, now we're going to do a couple shows in December.
Did you manage to sneak any of the new tracks in for the live sets at all? Were you waiting to do something when that dropped, or how'd you go?
Here's the thing. I would do it all the time, but like our bass player, Rich, is like, him and Grant, they're the very practical guys. They're like, nobody's heard these songs yet. No one cares. They're like, you have to put them out first. Like, and I'm like, yeah, but I want to play the new stuff. He's like, no one cares until it comes out. And yes, they're like my voice, that tells me not to do that. So,
we all need that.
Yeah, because I would do a bunch of stupid shit. And like, I'm not, I need like somebody to like tell me, no, don't do that stuff.
Yeah, I bet you can't wait then till December that you can play and get some new tracks, rip some of the new tracks out there in the set. Is there one you're really keen on looking forward to playing live?
There's so many. Like, I think anytime something new comes out, like, I just want to play all those songs, but like, even though people would be really bummed out if we did. So like, I still have to play the stuff that people, like expect us to play, and that's cool, to find a good balance, but yeah, I would like to just play the whole album from top to bottom, but like I said, nobody wants to hear that. So, we got to pick. So, we're definitely, we'll be doing all talk. We'll stereo overthrow, a song called Lowdown we're going to have in this set. And yeah, so there's, I really want to play See You in Hell.
See You in Hell. I was just going to mention that track because I love that closer track, dude. That is unfucking real, man. It really hit home for that, and it sits well on the end of that album that has you going, I've got to hear that again.
It's a song. That's the best song as far as I'll tell you the story behind it. That's the best thing we've ever recorded as far as I'm concerned, and it started out, we have a friend named Pete Berwick that he's an old school Nashville outlaw. Like, he goes around with an acoustic. He's an actor now. He mostly does acting, but he's also a profound, people don't know this, but he's a great songwriter. One of the best, I think. And one time he played with us for a couple shows, and he plays acoustic with the harmonica, and he played his set, and he played that song during the set. This was years ago. And I was like, and I was telling our drummer, Jake, at the time, I was like, Jake, like, I want to record that song. Like, that's a fucking great song. And Pete and I were drinking afterwards, and I was like, Pete, I want to record this song, See You in Hell. And he's like, oh yeah, you can have it. and I was like, well, okay. But I was like, I'm going to make sure I get it right, and I did all kinds of demos for it and couldn't get it right. And he would hit me up every now and again. He goes, what are you doing with that song? I was like, I'll do it when I get it right, Pete. Trust me, and finally I got it to where I wanted it, we recorded it for the album, and we needed pedal steel guitar. And it was like, okay, none of us play pedal steel guitar. Now we are in Nashville, so there's a million choices of people to play pedal steel there. But the producer at the time was like, our producer Jay's from Ireland, and he wrote in, and like he hits the little button, and he's like, Joad, he's like, you like Springsteen and Tom Petty? I'm like, yeah, I'm a giant Springsteen fan. He's like, well, why don't I just call I think it's Marty Rifkin. Yeah, he's like, why don't I just call Marty up and I'll have him play on it? I'm like, who's that? And he's like, well, he played pedal steel on The Ghost of Tom Joad for Springsteen and on Full Moon Fever for Tom Petty. I'm like, yeah, call him up right now. Like, let's make that happen. I can't, obviously. And he did. Yeah. And he came in and he did it in LA, actually. We're in Nashville, mind you, and we had the pedal steel player in Los Angeles do like the pedal steel. So that was all backwards, but it was really cool to, being a big, Springsteen and Tom Petty fan, to have, the guy that laid that stuff down, do that song. So he did the pedal steel, and that was, that was kind of, that song had really not too many overdubs, I think Adam, that played lead guitar on that, actually, who no longer plays with us live anymore, but he recorded the lead live and then went back and tracked his rhythm guitar, so, it was just all of us, 4 of us just playing it together in a room, which was pretty cool. So although I'm really happy with that song. I was like, this has got to close the album. I like it, and hopefully we can play that live and it doesn't bum people out.
It definitely hits you in the feels. It's an unreal track though, but it's one that kind of sticks with you. It is one that definitely stuck out to me at the end of that album for sure. I'm like, damn, I got to ask about that. Where's the best place people can head over and chuck in pre-orders? I think you've got a website, haven't you? Scatteredhamlet.com.
Yeah, that works. Scatteredhamlet.com. You could click on the merch and you get a pre-order out. From what I understand, we sent the first round of pre-orders out. People are already getting them. I saw on Facebook people holding up vinyl albums and shit. Nice. So that's cool. So, but yeah, it's shop.scatteredhamlet.com, will take you to the actual store. But, we have vinyl CDs, lots of bundles, like things like that.
Isn't it good the vinyl's still selling and merch for the metal scene? That's one good thing that I've noticed a couple of years, that the metal scene, metalheads and rock and punk, we've all still been buying bloody merch and supporting the scene, because we know it's like Spotify and all them. We know that they are really taking advantage of the artists. So, we do listen occasionally, but for me, I love fucking buying merch. I love buying vinyl. I love being able to support the bands and go to this and buy merch from them.
I read a thing, and I don't know if it's exactly true, but compared to what we make, about 5,000 streams, it would make the same for an artist as buying one copy of vinyl from them.
Yeah. And that's where playing live. Like, playing live is a big part. Yeah. Like, it's been a pain in the ass dropping albums, but also when you drop an album, you want to be able to play it live.
Yeah, you want to be able to play. Yeah, it's right,
a huge part of it. Fans coming over, having that interaction with the band as well. Not just the big shows, the club shows. And I'm hoping as everything opens up again, a lot of these clubs are all right, but going to these club shows and then catching you guys would be unreal at a small club show, because I know I'd be able to come and have a beer with you afterwards. You'd be at the merch stand, and those are things that people are missing going to these shows.
It's so true. Like, even when we did Rockfest, that big festival here, if you want to meet us, just come to our merch table. We're standing there, it's like, there we are, it's like, there's nobody who's working it. We are, that's what we do. We're fucking standing there just like everybody else. Because if we got somebody else to, I got to pay that person to do it, so we're so it's us, you're going to meet one of the people from the band, and we're hanging out, and
that's the best thing. The fans come up and they go, man, I loved your set. Even for you guys, when you're there at the merch stand, having a fan come up to you guys, probably first time they've seen Scattered Hamlet, they're like, fuck, I loved your show. They're like, got to buy a shirt. They've got to buy a CD. Then they go home and tell their mates as well. And that's just so much that people don't even realize, man.
Yeah, and it's so cool because it goes both ways. I was at one festival, and here we are at the merch area, and I'm taking pictures of people who are excited to see me, and then Clutch is playing on stage, right? And I'm just stoked that Clutch is playing. Why, like that I could sit here and see it. And later on, you know, backstage, I see Neil from Clutch, and I'm like, Neil, and I'm getting pictures with him, you know, like, so it's like, here's me getting a picture because I loved it. I was like, these guys fucking rule, you know, so it's just, we're fans at the same time, you know, it's just, you know, it just goes like that. And it's really an interesting, thing, you know. It's been a weird experience for me, you know, because like, you know, I'm talking to people that, and they look at you as the person on stage, and like, I look at myself as the person in the audience that was like, oh shit, that I was like, I'm hanging out with this person I used to listen to when I was a kid, and you know, and I'm a fan. I still listen to their music, you know. So it's a trip.
It is a trip, and that's one thing I'm hoping really opens up. Well, I'm hoping the international borders. I'm hoping that people get along to the shows and they don't have this, oh, we've been at home for the last couple of years and find it hard to get out. That's another thing I'm worried about, people just getting too comfortable in their own zones and forgetting how good it is going to catch bands live like yourself and all these other bands we've missed out on the last couple of years.
And people, believe me, man, people need to get out and interact and talk to other people, because there's so much division and people arguing. It's like, man, if we were all just in the same room, this would be not even a problem, you know. But like when you're so like isolated, I think it gets worse. Like you get bad ideas in your head and you think you're right.
And we're all just fucking people, man. We're all just the same. Ultimately, hard. I've talked to people all over the world, all over the fucking country, all over the place, and we're all the bloody same. We all basically want the same things, and we all like love our music.
That's it. The reason that you're doing what you're doing is the same reason I'm doing what I'm doing. You know, it's like, it's because somewhere along the way we picked up that, I'll date myself, I was like, I picked up the cassette or the CD. Yeah. And I'm like, ooh, this was like, you know, I remember I was small, and I had to, and I always tell a story, like we have these big coal trains that come through. And I remember being young and couldn't, and obviously all I had was a bicycle or a coal train. And I hopped the coal train to ride this fucker to go make sure that I could get freaking Guns N' Roses on tape, you know, so I could get fucking Appetite for Destruction. I was like, because there's one place in town where I could get the Stormtroopers of Death, Anthrax, like I said, you know, Guns N' Roses, all these bands, like you could get them on tape or CD there. And it was like too far from where I live, but I could jump on the train, which I don't recommend anybody doing. It's a horrible idea. But like, yeah, I would hop the fucking train so I could go down there with whatever money I had, you know, and buy these, these youngsters don't understand, man. They can like just start streaming shit on the internet. Like they just pull their phone out. I was like, man, I had to hop a train for that shit.
Yeah, dude. We didn't even have a music store in my little town. We were like in the middle of fucking nowhere here in Australia. So I used to steal my mum's tapes and put that little bit of sticky tape over and put it in the cassette tape and wait till I hear the song that I want and try and record it and stop it in time before the DJ speaks or some ad comes through or something. The struggle.
I love it, man. The struggle's real, man. They don't understand.
They don't understand. That's why I love being able to buy merch now, because it's so much easier than when I was a kid. For me, it's like I'm still that big kid that just loves music. And
that's it. You know, like I'm like you know, like you can, I don't know if you can see it back. I have like a whole stack of like, you know, my backstage passes. Yeah, like, and there's, you know, all my passes, and those aren't even from like just like ours. Those are from like me going to see friends' bands, and I'm excited about like that. Oh, you're opening for these guys? I'll be there. I'm gonna freaking be a roadie tonight. You know, like the best one I remember was I was in Los Angeles. I'm a giant Iron Maiden fan. Like Iron Maiden are the kings.
Iron Maiden are good, aren't they?
Yeah, they're just the kings. And at the time, it was when I first. This was before this band. I lived in I was living in Los Angeles, and our rehearsal space randomly, because LA works this way. Scott Ian from Anthrax used to keep his amps in our rehearsal. We had the Anthrax Persistence of Times amps in the corner of the space. That blew my mind every day. Like every day I just like walked in, I'm like, that's Anthrax's amps, you know? And at the time they were playing with Anthrax. It was the brief period when they had Dan Nelson was singing for them. And they were opening for Iron Maiden like one town down from there, and like he had a space, and we're like, we're coming as Anthrax, you know, like he was like, we're basically gonna throw your amps outside if you don't like let us come backstage for Iron Maiden. You know, like, and we're like these big dudes, and Scott's like, yeah, whatever, you know. It's us. We're like, oh shit, it worked, you know. And so here we are, just randomly. Now we're backstage at Iron Maiden. Like it was like fucking Wayne's World to us or something. We're like, oh my god, we're backstage at Iron Maiden just because. And that was just, I still have it over the, you know, the past, and it was just like one of those unreal experiences because Maiden is just Maiden.
Oh, aren't they? And they're so fucking good live. I finally got to see them a few years ago. I think it was about 5 years ago when they come over to Australia last, and I was so fucking happy to see them, dude. It was unreal. They just put on such a great show, the theatrics of it all, and I was just like, dude, these guys are never gonna fucking sound like so good.
They're just the kings, man, you know, and it was so cool, like seeing, so like, that's me, you know, like I get very excited about that kind of stuff. And, you know, and it's funny because a lot of people that come out and like see us, you know, they're surprised that I'm as into Iron Maiden as I am. They're, you know, they think I just like sit around listening to like Leonard Skinner all day or something. It's like, well, Skinner's awesome, but you know, there are other bands, you know, and just because I play one style.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with metalheads. Just because we're into metal or whatever style, don't mean we're not listening to all sorts of stuff: blues, jazz, rock, you know, Leonard Skinner, whatever the hell. I have a huge range of music I'm listening to. Music and rock and metal's up there as the top, but shit, man, I'm listening to all sorts of other stuff as well.
Oh, it's so. Shit, even on the new Iron Maiden album, I think it's I'm not sure if it's Dave or Adrian, but like there's one track on there where they're playing straight pentatonic like blues stuff, and it's like my buddy sent that to me and was like, here, listen to this. And I was like, and I'm like, this is really good. Like, I was like, this is like a lot better than like how we do this. And I'm like, shit, leave it to Iron Maiden to do like what we do better than we do. And it's Iron Maiden. Like, I was like, how the fuck do they do that? Because they're Maiden.
Yeah, because they're Maiden. Adam, this has been an absolute pleasure. Everyone needs to grab that Scattered Hamlet album, Stereo Overthrow. You can jump over to scatteredhamlet.com, get it, put it in the stereo, turn it up really loud for the neighbors. Adam, you got any last words, shout outs or thank yous, my friend?
Thank you. You know, we're all doing the same game. We appreciate the shit out of folks like yourself for doing this. It's a pleasure to sit down and talk to you tonight. And hopefully we see you for real in person and not on a camera sometime very soon. All right.
Yeah, same, man. Absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me, my friend.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Done.